kicking for you like it's 9-3. You see, Rob impact the mic, keeping it real G. Talk about relationships, money, and health. Dropping knowledge while I'm spitting it, that's a wealth.
Complex conversations, we break it down. Pop culture topics, we hold it down. Dive deep into society's complexities. Educate, entertain, never rest in it. Complex
Context, where the truth unfolds. Analyzing life through stories untold. Rob impact, dropping knowledge every day.
Unpacking life's complexities, one topic at a time. You're listening to Complex Context. Here is your host, Rob Impact.
Welcome to Complex Context. I am your host, Rob Impact, and I'm very happy that you're back here with me for another episode where we get to banter back and forth about whatever we want to talk about in life. Hey, I want to let you know, if you hear a little bit of whirring in the background, I do apologize. We are recording during a day where the humidity is ridiculous. I'm in Massachusetts, in case you haven't heard in prior episodes, and we have another little mini heat wave going on. Not something that I'm happy about. I don't think a lot of people are happy about it, but it is what it is. Somehow a fly got into the studio here, and I'm trying to make sure it doesn't come buzzing around me as I'm recording. It's a day, man. We have a day every so often. I know you know what I'm talking about, where you just want to get done what you want to get done. And you have little elements, little factors that get in the way or kind of distract you. And we have the heat and humidity today. We have some of our bug friends coming in and out. I don't know. It's just one of those days, man. But that's all right. Nothing about those factors is going to get in the way of having a quality chat, you and I. How have you been doing? We've been very blessed. We're very happy for all of our traffic that we've received on the internet, our Facebook page, our X page. I hate saying X page. It just doesn't sound right. It's something I got to get used to, I guess, but Twitter, X, you know what I'm talking about. I do want to give a shout to our folks, all of our listeners, you, part of the Complex crew, and a big special shout going out to the folks of Pennsylvania who have been killing it with the listenership. I do appreciate that. I see you, and thank you very much. Feel free to spread the love with your friends and family. Independence Day has come and gone here in the United States, and though it was a very good holiday where we were able to sit back, look at all of the blessings and the freedoms that we have for those of us living in this country, and be thankful for the founding fathers and all of the events that kind of molded what America has become, there was one particular thing that kind of comes up with regularity year after year, and it disturbed the heck out of me, and more so my pets, and that is fireworks. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. So many places do fireworks, you can't stop it. No, I wouldn't stop it or want to stop that. I think when you have the towns and cities plan the event and leave it to the professionals, I think that's a great opportunity for family and friends to come together and have that moment of, hey, look, bright sparkly lights, America, hooray. I think that's a good thing. I'm not opposed to that at all. What I am opposed to is having all of the various neighbors that go to the nearest state where you can buy fireworks, and it's certainly not in Massachusetts. I'm just going to leave it at that because they're technically illegal here, but that's neither here nor there. People going to a neighboring state, buying fireworks, coming back to this state with them, and planning on shooting them off in their yard at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night on July 3rd and July 4th and July 5th. I'm all about having a good time, but within reason. And I say that as someone that's not just a parent and a pet owner. I know it's easy for most people to go to that and say, well, it's different. It would be different if you didn't have pets that got scared or if you didn't have a child that had to go to bed. No, I've always felt that way. I've really enjoyed fireworks on a mass level regarding when you have those cities and towns or maybe a fair or a special event that coordinates this activity and have everybody come together en masse to watch together and have a good time. I think that's great. I like that. And I have no problem with that because at that point, as a homeowner or a renter, it is everyone's responsibility to kind of figure out what activities, whether they're seldom or regular, happen around the area where you live. With that said, it's a completely different ballgame when you're talking about not knowing who may purchase fireworks and set them off themselves. Whether it's in their backyard or friend's place, it doesn't matter really the location so much as it does you're setting it off without anybody having any prior awareness or capability of saying, hey, I know that I'm going to hear this or see this in my neighborhood. How would you know? You're not going to go around asking people, hey, did you happen to buy any fireworks that you plan on setting off illegally? Nobody's going to do that. You want to give the peace of mind, and I would like to do the same as I try to every year, but unfortunately, there's always going to be people in your neighborhood surrounding houses where you just hear the loud bangs and the booms and all that. And as a parent and a pet owner, it is frustrating to know that you don't know if your child is going to wake up because you have people setting off fireworks. Cool. It benefits them and maybe the people that surround them who are outside. But how does that benefit the family who's inside going to bed? It doesn't. It really doesn't, because it's a personal decision that was not taking anybody else into consideration in terms of the neighborhood. It's not like there's mass invites going out saying, hey, just so you know, RSVP to my fireworks display that's happening on July 3rd or July 4th. It never happens that way. And again, I'm not opposed to people having a good time, but there are ways to carry it out. And I'm not trying to be that negative Nancy or Debbie Downer, whatever cliche term you want to talk about in relation to this. I'm saying I think we all have a responsibility as a good neighbor and just an overall decent person to keep in mind, hey, if I'm going to do this, am I going to affect the neighbors around me? Or am I going to have a certain group affected more than other people who might be witness to this or hearing it go off? Let's consider, for one, that even though we're celebrating America, there might be some veterans around that have PTSD in an extreme case, and these things could trigger them or at least contribute to greater stress than what's necessary. At that point, what are you celebrating? The veterans are really the backbone of this country and its capability to continue forward, even though it's a little wonky. That's its own discussion we're not going to have here. But regardless, we move forward, and the United States has a lot of things going for it that other places may not, or at least not to the same degree. And a lot of that is thanks to those who have protected the country and have served and have contributed to upholding our freedoms. So what if you choose to celebrate the essence of this country, knowing that veterans who really provided such a foundation for it to continue with these freedoms? What if you are setting fireworks off and you don't know that maybe 3 houses, 4 houses down, there's someone who gets relatively triggered by the sounds of loud booms and impactful kind of vibrations? You don't know. I know we can't go around life with the whole what if thing because we'll never accomplish anything, but I am saying it is a responsibility of us to keep others in mind, not just as a good neighbor, but a good person in general. Of course, veterans are number one, when it comes to how something or someone may be affected by one's personal use of fireworks. Now, what about pets? I'm a pet owner. I have 2 dogs, and there are some dogs, typically breed specific, not all dogs, but some more than others. They get extremely scared by the sound of fireworks going off. One of mine got so scared that she ended up running into our bedroom closet and was sitting on top of a pile of shoes and underneath hanging clothes. So she kind of was, I don't want to say hiding, but yeah, maybe I do. Maybe I'll say she was hiding. And I felt terrible about that. Now, somebody could say, well, you could give them some CBD or some kind of calming chews. Yeah, I suppose. But that is a decision of every pet owner. And I'm not really quick to say, you know what, this seems like a good night where I want to semi-drug one of my dogs so that they're a little bit more oblivious to what's going on. I don't think that's fair to them because they didn't ask for that to happen. I didn't ask for it. So what are you going to do? I would want my dog to be comfortable, but not in an altered state. So it's really a difficult decision when it comes down to that for me personally. Now, others might not have a problem with it, and that's cool. I'm not saying you're wrong for choosing that if you want to give them something. I'm just saying that I feel the pets deserve to be as aware in their environment as any other time. And, let's go beyond just pets, right? I live in a neighborhood where, given any kind of random day, you could see a little bit of wildlife kind of scurrying about. We have rabbits, plenty of rabbits. We've actually had a few deer near our street the past few weeks. I'm not too sure why. It's been more prevalent than in years past, but it's cool. I just hope that they're not really being forced out of an area that they were in before. There's also been turkeys that have come down, and you have the usual, the squirrels and the chipmunks and the birds and all that. So I think of the wildlife as well, and when you have these booms going off, knowing that you typically see some form of wildlife every so often, they're not going to go that far. So they're out there hearing this as well. And what is it doing to them? How does that stress them out? I have no idea. I would be interested in knowing how it may or may not affect them. I can't imagine with especially the smaller ones, you say the rabbits, I can't imagine that they are not scared as heck when they hear fireworks going off. Now, it does bring up the discussion, how do you differentiate the validity of setting it off in an organized fashion on, say, a city level or a business entity level versus having people personally setting them off, and justify having disturbances one way versus the other? That is a discussion I would love to have, and I would love your input on that, how you may think it's okay or not okay for one way versus the other way, or maybe not at all, or maybe for both. Reach out to the show. We'll give the information later on if you would like to contribute and let us know your thoughts on that. But to summarize, you have a multitude of factors that go behind fireworks being set off and the, let's say, the appropriateness of it without disturbing the neighborhood or living things within it too much. A lot of times the cities and business entities that organize these things, knowing that they're going to be seen en masse, they're done in a location that is typically one that is of an open area or that has a high gathering of people on a regular or semi-regular basis. And that makes a little bit more sense than when you have people every 4 or 5 houses that have just little pockets of family and pets and people of all different backgrounds, you have to go to the larger areas to see the professionally organized fireworks. So you have to go out of your way to do that. When you don't even leave the comfort of your home and have that disturbance be ever present, that's a whole different situation. So what is the right way to go about this? Do you just tell people cut the crap? Don't do that. I'm kind of at that point in life where I'm like, listen, if the little sparkly lights, ooh, look at sparkly lights, oh, the lights and the booms and it reminds me of a lot of the motorcycle riders who I see out and about that have the souped up exhaust systems, and they're barely going 5 miles an hour as they're going through a freshly turned green light. And it's like you feel like there's a miniature earthquake, and it's like 70 decibels hitting your ears, and you're like, oh my God, I just want to pass through this area, right? I never understood that. And fireworks being set off in a personal manner, it's kind of the same thing. I don't understand it. I get it if you want to go to something that has that. And let's be honest, if we're going to have full transparency, we did. My family and I went to a large gathering on July 3rd that was set up by the town where we live in. And there was also probably thousands of people who were there. So everybody who was there understood what they were getting into. And because it's gone on for so long, anybody who had residential around this large area, they know what they have and what they were getting into when they decided to live there. It's no secret. Those are the types of things that you look up beforehand, and you can find easily records of, hey, the town sets this off every Independence Day. And then that's your choice on, I'm not bothered by it or otherwise. So we went out and we had a great time. But once I came back and my child had to go to bed, and getting the dogs acclimated to us being back and taking them outside to go to the bathroom and giving them some food, I didn't need kind of the aftershock effect, if you will, of more fireworks. I know that there were people around my neighborhood who set them off, and it has nothing to do with them as people. I have really great people that surround me. But the decision to set that off late at night after there were massive fireworks that the town organized, who is it benefiting as a whole? When you have a mass gathering of thousands of people, you already have the answer to that. But when you're doing it in your backyard, tell me what that answer is. Beyond you setting them off, who is it benefiting? I'm going to argue not too many, if anybody, other than yourself. You don't know how people might react in their respective households. If there's any anxiety issues, PTSD, you don't know how pets are going to react. And you don't know if you're going to wake up any children that are trying to have a respectful bedtime because, their parents told them it's bedtime. There's only so much any person or household can do before you have to look at the source of why this is the case. And the source is the people making the conscious decisions to purchase fireworks and, in this state, illegally, decide to set them off and just assume that it's okay and nobody's going to be bothered by it. That it just makes no sense to me. I don't get it. Is this something that you do? And if so, are you the type to say, I do it because I can, because America? Or are you the type that understands that it's better to do it en masse and leave it to the professionals and not cause a disturbance to your neighbors or friends who may have a difficult time being exposed to these kinds of things. Let us know. We would love the feedback. I think this is a very hot button issue when it comes to Independence Day celebrations. Contact us in any number of ways that suit your fancy. We are on facebook.com/complexcontext1. We are on X, the former Twitter. Our username is @complexcontext1. And you can send us an email, complexcontextshow@yahoo.com. Let us know. What do you think about this? In my looking at job postings lately, because I'm at the point career-wise where I'm ready for the next chapter, it's amazing that I came to the conclusion that there's one very important thing that's missing, and it's across all platforms and almost every industry. Of course, I've put in the typical details of what you're looking for in terms of what kind of industries you're interested in, your commute in terms of your mileage traveled, your salary expectations, all that. And you get listings back, and the job market for those who are looking, whether out of necessity or are in a similar situation where they're ready for the next chapter, is pretty crappy as it is. So keeping that in mind, there are those who make the argument, well, you can't be too picky. And I say, well, as somebody who wants to dedicate a lot of their time and their energy, you probably want something that you can relate to and feel good about and make contributions towards that line up with your personal and professional goals. Now, on most of these options, you can put in any kind of search term you'd want, any kind of keyword that might relate to a position itself or some part of the job's responsibilities that you're looking for. And this is what amazed me, right? Is there's one thing that I'm looking for. Well, I don't want to say one thing. I should say one important factor that I would like to achieve for my next career path. And that is, as I think everybody should have some degree of, is having fun doing what you're doing. I've always been, in my managerial days, and even though I am a manager still, I'm the only person in my department, and I have no direct reports currently like I did before. I'm not going to get into it too much. It just was a new role that opened up, so kind of a new department where I was, and it's running light right now. I'll just say that. So there's one thing that I would always tell people when I did have direct reports, which is, if we can yield the results that we need to on a day-to-day basis and use our skills, use what our trainings have taught us, rely upon each other, make sure that we collaborate, and I do mean legitimately, not as a buzzword, because people want to talk about collaboration and then go say, all right, go figure this out on your own. And I'm like, you can't collaborate when you're flying solo, but be that as it may. So I tell people, if we can get the results that are needed day to day, there's no reason why we can't have fun while we're getting there. And fun is different things to different people. I know it's a very subjective term, but to me, fun can be as simple as you just joke with your colleagues, right? You have this open line of communication that is very abrupt, but in a good way, very transparent. You're not hiding who you really are. You don't have this professional faux approach because that's what we think business wants. I would much rather somebody have fun, talk the way that they would talk to their friends, and be honest and forthcoming, knowing that everybody has an opinion and it shouldn't dictate one's ability to get done what they need to get done. That also means talking about some ridiculous stuff, whether it's pop culture, I don't know, differing. Now, I don't want to say anything too, like, no religious or political stuff if you can help that. That usually doesn't end up very well. So that aside, I'm talking about just being upfront, open, honest, being you without that veil of professional fakeness that a lot of people are expecting is required or is desired from them. I think that's terrible. So when I tell people that, I've had a good amount kind of look at me like, really, what's the catch? And it's kind of flattering because it's like, there is no catch. This is just how I operate. And some of the best work that I've done when I've been in that leadership position has been with those people being able to express themselves and joke and have fun. And at any random time say, hey, can you help me with, or hey, I'm having difficulty with, and I can go, okay, hey team, how would we like to handle this? And you get it figured out, and then you can go back to doing what you have to do and having fun doing it. So my point in saying all this is, when I've seen the job listings that are out there, right, and you put in your commute expectations, your salary expectations, maybe a role, a specific role that you're hoping for, maybe a specific industry, whatever, right? You can get, if you filter it down to a week, maybe 1,000 or 800 to 1,000 job returns over the past week with the criteria I put in. Now, get this. You take that same criteria and you put in the keyword fun. And you know what came back? Less than 10 jobs. I went from hundreds and hundreds of jobs returned, closer to the 1,000 mark, to under 10 because I put in the word fun as a key word that was criteria to search against. That is pathetic. That is absolutely pathetic and shows the gigantic disconnect that at least this United States of business has in terms of attracting certain people. Listen, I know that work is work, and I expect that there are sets of criteria in place in terms of how one is expected to grasp what is needed and how to produce the result that is expected. You cannot convince me that there are all of these varying industries who all feel that you cannot do what is needed and produce the results that are expected without sacrificing fun. You cannot convince me that that is the standard. And if it is, we are in gigantic trouble. Now, as a company CEO or investor, that might not be even anywhere near the top of the list in terms of what to think about. And that's where the problem lies, is if you cannot promote to your workers that there are expectations that need to be carried out and there are ways to do it, but we do encourage fun. Again, the subjective term. How do we encourage fun? We want people to laugh. We want people to be open and transparent, and we want people to express themselves without fear of retaliation or fear of not fitting in this mold. There are differing opinions on how you can have fun. But because it is such a broad term, to me, that would mean that it should be ever present in the jobs that come back in these searches. When you have a broad term, one that is so subjective, how that's interpreted by each company who uses that, of course you're going to have different results, but that's why it's a good thing that it's a broad term, because it could elicit a number of different factors behind what they feel composes fun in their workplace. When you have less than 10 jobs that say that, and let's be honest, folks, I didn't put in a 6-figure salary. I didn't put in like a ridiculously short radius from where I'm traveling from. I had search criteria that was very reasonable. And again, I had so many hundreds of jobs that was closer to the 1,000 mark that when it put in this one word and it produces under 10 results, how is that not concerning? I want to have fun with what I do. And I would want my colleagues to also have fun, because if they're not having fun, then I'm probably going to somewhat be affected. And that's not something that I would blame anybody else for, because those are people that have the awareness, hey, I work in a place that doesn't really consider fun a thing. And let's get away from, well, we have, the once every 3-week lunch. Stop it. Listen, eating is nice. Eating is not fun. It's not fun. You eat to survive, okay? And I have to do that on my own anyways. So let's get beyond that. Let's think of ways that we can bring people together on a regular basis and have them feel good about accomplishing really accurate, good, respectable results together with smiles and laughs. I just fear where this country is at with job opportunities right now. And please, folks, don't believe any jobs reports that are put out in the news. I could, and I won't get into it, but we are unfortunately in a time where there is a mass of people that will take a data set and will skew it in a certain way that promotes their agenda. And that in itself is extremely dangerous. Extremely dangerous. So you have job reports coming out that say, oh, we added so many jobs over the past month. But a lot of that, again, I don't want to get too far into it. It's what are you considering? Are jobs temporary working jobs, or are they actual careers? The number of jobs added, how does that compare to the number of unemployment claims that were made for the past month? There's all kinds of factors to consider. But my point in saying that is, despite the market not being good, no matter what you hear, and it is not good in the United States of business, you're not going to attract talent, and you're not going to attract certain experienced talent when you lack certain key words. And I don't know about you, but for me, I'm at a point where I'm not going into something any worse or the same as where I'm at right now. I want better. And for me, better is feeling good about what I do and having fun while I'm doing it. And that fun has been lacking. I enjoy what I do, but I don't have that smile. And I've done it for so long, and everything is just so clinical that, I want to contribute in an environment where I feel like we can laugh about something and know that it doesn't mean we're not taking something seriously, that we just have a good rapport with each other, and the organization takes itself seriously enough, but not so seriously that we can't feel like we can just kind of be ourselves. So why do we not see that? Why is fun such a dirty word with what's available in the job market right now? Let me know. I would love to know. Have you come across something like that, where you've put in one particular key word or phrase or a certain aspect of the job opportunities you're looking for, and it has dramatically decreased the results coming back to you? to the point where you're like, am I being unreasonable, or is this just a really sad state of affairs? Let us know. Contact us here at the show. We would love to get your feedback and your opinion on, is fun a dirty thing in the workplace, or is it something that is so lacking that it's really a contributor as far as why the state of affairs for the United States job market is what it is? I want to thank you for being with me for another episode. We had two very, I guess, intense topics, two topics that are very near and dear to me, and it doesn't stop with me. Your participation is highly encouraged. Make sure you contact us. We are at facebook.com/complexcontext1. We're also on X, the former Twitter. Our username is @complexcontext1. You can also send us an email, complexcontextshow@yahoo.com. And as we are on 11 platforms, one of which is YouTube, we're on all the major ones, guys. Come on. I keep telling you this. Spread the love. Your friends and family, I guarantee you, have at least one of these platforms that we're on. And at the very least, if they don't, you can just tell them go to the website, complexcontext.podbean. That's PODBEAN.com. Big shout going out to Podbean, who hosts us and helps with our distribution. They are awesome. But definitely check us out. All the episodes are there. And I encourage you to have a great week. I want you to have fun as you go through the week with your work and your responsibilities. I also want you to be a good neighbor and make sure that anything that you do does not disturb your neighbors or surrounding people, unless, obviously, if it's something you can't help, you can't help. But make conscious decisions that are not just good for you, they're also good and non-intrusive for the people around you. Do what you do it often, do it well, just don't do anything I wouldn't do, and you'll be doing all right. I'm Rob Impact. Thanks for listening.
Visit the show's website at complexcontext.podbean.com. Complex Context is a Mass Ed Media production.